Hey, do not with that guy. Peeking around a corner with suppress 5.56, hits one guy in the head, and then he's got two guys like 10 yards away and one guy like 5 yards away. No chance they wouldn't do that. You know, I'm not running up on a motherfucker with a knife. Oof, that tail rotor is real close to hitting him, getting too close to the ground. Now, I'm not an airborne ranger or anything, but I don't believe that's how parachutes work. I actually have this game. I really enjoy it. Pretty fun to play with a team. Yeah. Oh my god. I mean, he's being very proactive, I guess you could say. Violence of action does work. There's no way you're doing all this without, you know, raising some suspicion. Aiming the weapon, I mean, colder temperatures like that, it'll mess with your body before, you know, I mean, it'll make reaction time slower when you're in like real Arctic environments like this. But as far as like having the gun work, Grand Thumb did a really great video series on freezing some guns, throwing them in the mud. So it will affect how certain weapon systems run in the really cold kind of Arctic environments. So yeah, it could definitely affect how you're gonna aim the gun if your arms are moving slower because you've been out in the snow for, you know, who knows how long. But this reminds me a lot of a video I saw on the X-Ray Alpha Instagram. I believe his name's Mike, talking about violence of action. It was a video of this guy in I believe it was an airsoft arena, and he's just like sprinting through like hallways, corridors, like through rooms and stuff. And he's just picking people up. Like, now, as far as having that as your real life game plan, I'm not so sure. You gotta be, you know, pretty prepared to catch a hot one at that point. But I guess you can see it works in the game just fine. I don't know about, you know, covering yourself with snow about 12 feet from a armed security guard there, but maybe playing on easy mode or something. I don't know. I feel like I get seen a lot quicker when I play this game. That's that violence of action I was talking about. Just keep running around and popping dudes in the face, I guess. He cleared that whole place. I don't think they shot at him once. Now, I guess I'm not very good at this game because I've got no idea what those little drones he was throwing up. I know the one that you can throw up that you see through, but they're being used in Ukraine right now. The other day was showing some friends a video of, there was a guy that had just kind of a drone that you'd use for like aerial photography, and he had strapped in a little charge of some sort going through. It kind of looked, I mean, I couldn't tell you the exact nomenclature of it, but it was point initiated, base detonated, meaning when it falls, lands on the nose, and then the explosion happens going down from the back. It was attached to like a civilian photography drone, and they had a camera pointing down on it, and you could see the very tip of that charge on it, so you could see where you're dropping it. So that stuff's, I mean, coming quicker than you think, to be honest with you, man. Now, as far as, I mean, shooting like that, he's shooting great, but even with the suppressor on there, I think is a common misconception with people that are most familiar with suppressors through video games and movies. If I'm shooting at somebody out in the wide open, it's not completely silent to folks 20, 30 yards away. You're still definitely able to hear it. It could be hearing safe. You wouldn't need ear protection to be 20, 30 yards away from it, but it wouldn't. One of the main focuses of the game being to avoid detection. I think they'd put a little bit more work into, you know, making the suppressor sounds easily picked up by the enemy, I guess I'm trying to say. Now, thermals are a very useful piece of gear. Typically in the military, we'll have night vision on you at all times. You know, any sort of deployment or field exercise, you know, even in the States, you're going to take night vision with you every single time. Now, thermals, that's highly mission dependent. I didn't always need to use thermals. Sometimes we'd have one, but not very often. That's for the sole reason of, I mean, it looks like a bullpup rifle of some sort. The magazine is kind of towards his elbow. As far as like nomenclature, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe that British L85A1, maybe? I could be wrong. It's a bullpup of some sort. They're cool. It's a great way to get a longer barrel in a more compact sort of package. For what we were out there training, for the most part, you know, I'm speaking a lot from field exercises in the States. It was just never something that got worked in to having the whole unit being able to be proficient on a thermal. Now, to the right of the military, after, I use thermals all the time. I use thermals for work. They're a phenomenal piece of kit. I think they're great to have if you can afford it. I mean, that's kind of the only thing making that barrier of entry pretty high nowadays is, I mean, a good thermal is going to run you, you know, on the, I'm going to say in quotes, cheaper end, $2,000 up to, you know, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000. You're not messing around at that point, but phenomenal gear, honestly. Thermal's come a long way here in the last 10 years, I'd say. We've got, I know my boss's hunting rig, his thermal, it'll send you like a video to your phone. Those are always really cool. And I know the new Army optic that Vortex makes, I believe, has a thermal feature. Don't quote me on that. It may just be range finding. They could have a thermal one. Now this kind of thermal, I don't know if it's labeled as a thermal in the game, but this is pretty cool because you can see like past barriers and stuff. Obviously thermals that we have today, you know, you're not going to be able to see through that concrete building. Yeah, this guy's shooting 5.56. That round is moving incredibly fast. So, I mean, even through something like a suppressor, you're still going to get quite a bit of noise, you know, from the muzzle. Like I said before, it's not going to be ear-ringing loud. That from his last two contacts there, from the first guy to the second guy, who was all of, you know, 30 yards away, there'd be no way he wouldn't hear that. It's impressive he can tell if they're behind cover or in front of it. It's just as I was watching, I couldn't tell if they were behind a block or stealth gameplay. That's definitely more how I played this game. I try to, you know, I'm not running up on a motherfucker with a knife that's currently shooting at me. I try to stay kind of more in the shadow. It kind of goes to show I definitely overthink this game a lot, and I think some of that comes with a little bit of training that could have come from the military, where it's like I saw the last guy was running around in the like the snow in just all black, and like I've got like 5 preset skins for, you know, because in my mind it helps, you know, you'd think it would help in the game, but apparently not. That guy's just dressed in black, you know, making light work of an entire base. So maybe I need to have more fun with it. That incredible shot offhand through that hole. I mean, it depends, really. It looks like, I mean, some sort of sniper rifle. You'd think he's firing like a magnum caliber round, but offhand, what's that look like? That's probably 100 yards. Just threading the needle through that hole, just standing in the open. Yeah, that's a pretty tough shot for sure. There we go. Hey, do not with that guy. You just saw him take a take a dive. Looks like 25, 30 feet in the air. That is pretty funny, having the like the guards, I guess you could call them, bad guys that are, you know, presumably just tasked with keeping an area secured, making sure nothing's going on. You know, you in that position, kind of pulling fire watch, what have you. You do get into some pretty odd conversations like that a lot of the time. He shot him, you know, got him zipped up through the head, and then he was falling. He was trying to engage the guy further, and then he was just hitting into the guy's plates and not going anywhere. That's that, you know, knowing height over bore. Your optic may be looking directly at somebody, but your optic and where the round comes out of the gun are in 2 separate places. So his optic was looking over the guy's shoulder, and he thought, you know, I presume he thought that, oh, okay, I just pull the trigger again, it's just going to go over his shoulder. He didn't realize that that guy's standing 5 yards in front of him. That's going to open up a lot more when you're out in front. I don't know if you can see here, you know, I've got a 1.93 inch riser on that optic. The end of the barrel, I've got that round that's 2 inches lower than where my optic is coming out of. So at that range, you know, it's that 5th weapon safety rule. Know your target, what lies beyond and in between. If I've got a guy that is literally made of armor that's 5 yards in front of me, I want to be absolutely sure my barrel is clearing him so I can engage that second target. This guy's using a lot of 5.56, which is phenomenally hard to load at a subsonic speed, and subsonic's like less than 1,000 feet per second. So the round is never actually breaking the sound barrier. And with calibers like 300 Blackout, 45 ACP, and this new 8.6 Blackout that's coming out, which is a super cool round, is worth looking up if you don't know much about it. Those loads, you know, your 200 plus grain 300 Blackouts, for example, are going to be much, much quieter through a suppressor suppressor because, you know, the round's moving slower, you're not breaking the sound barrier, you've got a lot of that gas and everything that's getting trapped up in that suppressor and blown back. Suppress 300 blackout, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if somebody was shooting subs and you couldn't hear them maybe 50 yards away. A really good example is like out in the woods, whether it be the deer woods or if you're out training in a jungle or any sort of heavily wooded environment, that's going to break up that sound a lot more. So you could be, you know, 50 yards ish away. I mean, I'm not pulling that number out of science, it's just an example, but you wouldn't be able to hear it as opposed to like 5.56. Now 5.56 out of a 16 to 18 inch barrel is, depending on your load again, it's moving almost 3,000 feet per second. So you're going from that like 900 mark for those real heavy like 300 blackouts and such, all the way almost triple that speed, or in some cases more than triple that speed. So in that same, you know, 50 yard ish range, depending on what you have to break up the sound around you, you'd still be able to hear it. And that's kind of what I was hitting on earlier with, you know, he's peeking around a corner with suppressed 5.56, hits one guy in the head, and then he's got two guys like 10 yards away and one guy like 5 yards away. No chance they wouldn't hear that. They would be very, very aware that somebody is shooting that close to them. You'd definitely be able to hear it. Breakpoint is a very fun game. It's very fun to play as a team, or as you can see here, I mean, it looks like this guy is really tearing it up by himself. As far as realism, out of 10, I'd probably give it like a 4, maybe even a 5 for some stuff, but a little closer to a 4 as far as like, this guy is just sprinting around compounds just by himself and putting some bad guys down. So guys, that's about it for me. If you'd like more experts react, go ahead and check out Gamology's Facebook and YouTube page. If you'd like more of me personally, my Instagram is @shooter.dad. And guys, always remember to stay mentally, spiritually, and physically prepared. Thank you.